Hello, YouTube. This is Demetria Farewell coming to you to bring you the news about my first week of Code Crew School. It was most invigorating, and if I didn't have a strong constitution of finishing what I start, there would have been an issue this week. It was most challenging, which is great. You need to be challenged every now and again in your life. And I tell you, I was challenged tremendously this week. Let me get right into saying, first of all, I want to thank our director, Miss Erin Johnson, for on Monday getting right in, telling us about the expectations of the school, telling us what they were expecting of us and what they were going to do for us as a class. Really appreciate her straightforward manner on that, and we have a good understanding of what we are to do. I appreciate the Code Crew School for making this type of opportunity available for people who normally would not be able to do this, nor would they even know about the program. Because I understand from our orientation on Monday that Memphis was like one of the only largest cities that didn't have a coding boot camp. So Code Crew stepped up and brought that and made that available to the Memphis area, and I think that's great. Our community definitely needs to stay on top of the tech game. I also want to say thank you so much for our wonderful instructors of Code Crew School, Ken, Kevin, and our teacher assistant Autumn for bearing with me this week. I know I asked an awful lot of questions, and you guys just kind of stayed right there with me, and I really appreciate you. I just needed to know, and this was new for me, foreign, so I had lots of questions. I just don't believe in not mastering something, and it kind of bothers me when I can't get right in and master it. But this is just not one of those things you're going to master in a week two. It's a long-term investment. It's a long-term investment to memory. So let me get right into some things that we actually learned this week. And I want to say coding is most interesting. We just never know what goes on behind the pages of a website, of applications. You just don't know. It is marvelous. So we learned this week. We first, when we got in, we learned something about this piece of software. It's actually Github is what it was called. Github actually is a version control system that actually house data from a community of developers. So my future employer, yes, could actually go in there and look at all the code that I'm doing and kind of keep up and track me or track any developer by that system if they're on GitHub. It actually shows all the code that you do. Also, it's used for best practices for developers. It's actually used to help developers actually be kind of strategic and align their code. If there's something that, if the code breaks at your organization, you have you're able to go into the GitHub system, actually see the last coder, and if they left comment in there, it'll be easier to go in and fix the problem if something is broken. If a code is broken, saves the the organization lots of time and money. That system kind of groups everything together and makes it easier for all developers to coincide there. So I think that's a wonderful system. Next thing we learned about the terminal. The terminal we use actually to get our assignments from GitHub. When the teachers actually push our assignments up, we have to go in and actually go into certain functions to actually pull that assignment, actually add it to our database there. Once we finish the assignment, we actually have to go in and add the assignment by clicking add and -A. We do commit, which we're committing the assignment. We add that by clicking get commit -M. And then we actually put comments over to kind of let you know what we're actually committing up Then we push that code, we push it up to our teachers so that they actually can grade it. So it's a great system to track our assignments and also to track our code. Wonderful, those things together. We then actually we had a system that we learned about called IntelliJ. Very intelligent system. To my understanding, it's a very expensive system, but it's very intelligent. Actually, it's going to let you know when your code is wrong. It gives you tips. It's wonderful. Now, when we go in IntelliJ, we have to create our folders for the day. And each time that we go in and we get an assignment, when we put it in IntelliJ, we create 2 files. One HTML. And remember that HTML I told y'all last week meant hypertext markup language. And then the language that we learned this week is JavaScript. So we had a JavaScript folder. Now, one of the things in HTML that I fought with all this week was our script tag. If you don't have a script tag in HTML, your code won't run and you can't test your code. When you type in code, you have to see if it works. You're just not typing in for no reason. It has to work and actually have to do what you told it to do. So I would have to go in and write a source code every day. Source equals index, quotes index.js, standing for JavaScript. And then we had to close that script tag, and that would allow our code to be tested. So that was phenomenal to see how that worked. So the first thing that we learned in JavaScript, which JavaScript is a very structured language. When you write the code in JavaScript, there are several functions, there are several things that can be done. First of all, when we do variables are basically a storage area for code so that you can actually use it then, you can come back and get it later. But in order to run your code, you have to have a variable. You have to have something to recall so the system knows what to do. Also, we went into loops this week, and there were 2 different type of loops that we went into. We did for loops. For loops is a loop of code that it will stop at a certain number or at a certain condition. Let's say, for instance, example, if you want to count down from 10 to 0, a for loop will allow you to count down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then that loop will stop. Now, we also did something called while loops, W-H-I-L-E. Those while loops are kind of infinite. If you don't put something in there that makes that condition false, that thing will go on and go on infinity. It will never stop. And actually, you can break your browser. I think a couple of times I saw some people do that. It's infinity. And with a while loop, let's say you would tell the code, you're going to run these loops until you enter a B in the system, until the user types Q. Hey, okay, once you type that Q, it'll stop. But if you never type that Q, it'll go on and on and on. Also, this is actually good, and I always ask, what does this do as far as employment is concerned on an employer? Well, this will be great. These loops are used for, let's say, for HR when you have to enter all the data for each employee, their name and different things of this nature. It just kind of loops around. Also, code is good for HR in the fact that you can write a program that can prompt a user to put in certain data. So variables, there is a certain actual code that you can use to prompt me to put in my age, my name, my social security number, and it's variable. I might name it Demetria. Variable Demetria, and it equals enter last 4 digits of your social security number. You always put it in quotes, so then it becomes a string, and at that point, the system will actually populate, and a box will pop up for you to put that information in. So that's all encoding. Also, we went into something called functions. Functions, there are several types of functions. You have the parse int function. The parse int, what it does is takes that string I was just telling you about and turns that into an integer or a number. Okay, especially when you have a string in code and you need it to be a number, you have to put parse in front of that, which is parse integer, and that will actually turn your code into a number. Also, that prompt I was just telling you about, that's one of the functions also. Also, we did conditionals. This is true if this happens. All right, so if -5 equals negative, if it, -5 is a condition, or is it a -2? And if it's -5, do this, and if it's -2, do that. So those are conditional statements. So we learned about that too. We learned about all the different data types, these different data types. So we learned quite a bit to this week, and today we kind of reviewed. And at the end of the day, I actually, for a couple of days, I didn't even take a break or lunch. I just kind of sit there and stared and asked questions after questions. So today I actually rewarded myself with a lunch and a break, because again I hadn't taken them for 3 or 4 days, because it was something to behold. So this evening, I was feeling real good about myself and everything. Oh, we did this, we did that. Today I'm learning. Then they popped a project on us this evening. That project kind of encompassed everything that we learned: variables, Boolean, code. Boolean is actually code that tells you if something is true or false. Either it's true or either it's false, or you can do an and. Like I was telling you earlier, if you do and, then it could be true or false, and if it's or, it's either it's going to be true or false, and it has to be both conditions. So that's the Boolean code, and I tell you, that was something. So we learned an awful lot of information this week, and again, that project kind of brought everything together. So I need to get refreshed, because we started all back over on Monday. It's so good to learn. It is. You just have to keep your mind open. And again, I had asked for your prayers on last week to open that logical side of my brain. I need those prayers to keep coming in now. Because again, remember, I'm doing this for me and for you. So thank you so much for listening. And this is great. Coding is just something that runs the world. I mean, literally, this thing guides the world, because it is guiding the computer. And it's just some things that we never thought about before. So everybody have a good night, and thank you, Code Crew. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, everybody. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed day. Thank you.